So let's look at what we need for the electronic setup first. So we have got 3 main boxes and an SD card as a part of this package. So let's first look at what's in the electronics box. What we have here is Raspberry Pi 02W. We have PD2 wire cable. We have the PD power board for the SKR, and this is the end stop cable and the end stop itself. So that's in that box. Let's put that on the side. And then we have the SKR Pico board from Big Tree Tech. So let's see what's inside. Here we have the SKR Pico board itself, UART cable to connect to Raspberry Pi, and a USB A to USB C cable. Inside this bag we have the Big Tree Tech board, SKR Pico, personally marked by LDO. And then we also have the screws we're going to need to attach that into the enclosure box, as well as the jumper cables we're going to be needing to make it work. Okay, so let's put that to side. And then we have the OTTOeject PSU, that is the power supply we're going to be needing for this project. Inside you'll find the PSU itself. As you can see, it has got all the certification needed for Europe as well as US. It's going to work on 220 volt as well as the 110, so it's compatible in basically any country. And then we have got the adapters to make it work in your relevant country. So I'm based in New Zealand, so I'm going to be using the Australia-New Zealand plug. And then I'm simply going to attach that onto it like this, and it's good to go. In order to take it out, you just need to press this button, pull it forward, and deattach it. Again, slide it in, press it down, and it's attached. So let's have a look at the component, all the component one more time. There is the power board, there is the USB-C cable, there is the UART cable, that's the Raspberry Pi 02W, there is the PD power for the SKR, these are the jumper cables and screws for the enclosure, these are the power cables for the SKR board again, here's the SKR Pico, SD card, and a 3-pin to 3-pin end stop cable. So first I'm needing the SD card and the card adapter itself to load the files onto it. So I'm quickly gonna go ahead and open this. Let's see. SD card. And now I've got the SD card out with me. I'm going to attach that onto the adapter, and then what I have here is an SD card reader that's attached to my PC. I'm simply gonna put the SD card inside and get to the next step. This step we're going to be basically first uploading the main cell OS image onto the Raspberry Pi's SD card itself. I've already plugged my SD card into an adapter into the SD card reader, and that should be connected and showing that yep, it's been connected. Let's minimize that. So next step is let's download the Raspberry Pi imager itself if you don't have it already. So I'm going to open a new tab and Google search Raspberry Pi imager, and here's the Raspberry Pi software that you can go to. So I'm going to go Raspberry Pi software page. As you can see, you'll see that you can download the Raspberry Pi imager straight from here. So I'm going to go download there for Windows. And now the file has been downloaded. I'm just simply going to click on the file and install the imager. English is going to be preferred language. Next. Accept agreement. Next. Create a desktop shortcut. And launch the Raspberry Pi imager. Okay, so my Raspberry Pi imager has been installed. As you can see, it's working. Next step is I'm going to basically load the main cell OS file onto this. For that to happen, I'm going to select what Raspberry Pi I'll be using, and obviously I've got the Raspberry Pi 02W, so I can scroll down and find that and click on it. Go next. As you can see, you've got various options here to choose operating system from. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go down to other specific purpose OS. As you can see, I'm gonna scroll down and find 3D printing. That's where it is. Click on it, and then as you can see, you'll have many options here like Octoprint, Octoclipper, PrintWatch, DuetPi. We're gonna go ahead and install the main cell operating system, which is this one. So I'm gonna go ahead and click on that, and there is a one option here, main cell OS 2.2.2. So I'm gonna go ahead and install that and go next. Then it's going to ask me which device you're going to install this onto. I'm going to install this onto the SD card that I've inserted, so I'm going to select the SD card, and I'm going to go next. See, now it has opened up the customization option dialog box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be choosing a host name. For this one, I'm just going to go simply auto MK, and I'm going to go next. Then it's going to ask me about my location. So here I have got Wellington, New Zealand. I don't think it probably has got Auckland, so I'm going to stick with Wellington, New Zealand. Time zone is Pacific Auckland. I'm going to go next. Choose username. So in this case, we are just going to so it's asking for us to set up a username now. So I'm just going to use Pi for now, and password, I'm just gonna keep standard Raspberry. You can pick and choose this username and password as you like. but for now, let's just go ahead with Pi and Raspberry as your standard password and username. So I'm gonna go click next. Then it's going to ask me about Wi-Fi network. In this case, I'm just going to go ahead and choose my SSID. So as you can see, I've already got my SSID selected here, but you can enter your Wi-Fi detail here. Again, let's just change it to the SSID that I want. This is the SSID that your Raspberry Pi and OTTOeject system will be connected to, and all your printers should be connected to as well. So I'm just going to make sure I'm going to select the correct SSID. Wi-Fi B4B MPTP 2GXD MPTP 2GXD. And I've just put my password in for the Wi-Fi. So let's go. It's going to ask us whether we want the SSH authentication, and I'm just going to keep it active as use password authentication. And I'm going to go click next. And that is going to now write the image onto the SD card itself. As you can see, it's a Raspberry Pi 02W, which is the board we have. We're going to choose main cell OS 2.2.2, and that's the SD card storage system. And it has applied hostname, localization, user account, Wi-Fi, and SSH enabled. And I'm going to click write. So I'll give you a warning that you're about to erase all the data onto the SD card. Since we have a new SD card, I'm not too worried about it, but if you're using some other SD card, then make sure that you've already transferred all your data from it. So let's go ahead and click on understand, erase and write. And now it's going to do its thing. Looks like it has downloaded the operating system onto the card. I'm going to close that. As you can see, everything has been loaded, and I'm going to finish this process. Now the next software we're going to be needing is the FileZilla to transfer the file. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to go ahead and open another tab and Google search FileZilla. We're going to come with the FileZilla link. We're going to go ahead and click on that, and I'm going to be downloading the FileZilla client. So here it is. I'm going to download the FileZilla client by clicking onto it for the Windows. I'm just going to be selecting the standard FileZilla version. Just going to download the file, and now I'm going to go ahead and click on the exe file and click on the file itself. And I'm going to install that. I'm going to agree. I do not want the Opera browser. Just gonna leave it as standard. It's going to install FileZilla. We'll start FileZilla now. As you can see, FileZilla has been installed. So now in the next step, we're going to be modifying the end stop cable before we connect our electronics. So let's go ahead and modify the end stop cable. Okay, so let's modify the end stop cable. For that, we're going to be needing a flat tip screwdriver, something like this, and then the end stop cable. So obviously the cable has got two ends, two identical ends with 3 pins in it. One of the end is gonna go attach onto the end stop. That's you already attach onto the gantry, just like this. And there's no need for any modification on this end. But on the other side of it, we're gonna be modifying that to from 3-pin to a 2-pin cable. So in order to modify that, we have got, as you can see, we have got 3 cables here, red, black and white. What we need is we need to disconnect we need to take out the white and the black cable from this. So for that to happen, what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a flat tip screwdriver and firmly press against this tip over here, and then simultaneously pull out this white cable. So I'm going to go ahead and press. So I pressed it, still not coming out. So as you can see, there's a clip that's holding it in place, so I'm gonna have to press it harder to press the clip all the way down. Still doesn't want to come out. There it is, the pin has come out. I'm gonna go ahead and do the same with the black cable. Again, I'm gonna grab the flat tip screwdriver, press hard against the metal clip and then inside, and then pull it out. So as you can see, both the cables are out, the black and the white. I'm gonna leave the red one as is. Now let's just move the black cable out of the way. Now there's a small clip on top of this clip. I'm just gonna raise it just a little bit like this, so that when we push it in again, it's gonna clamp onto it. So again, let's go ahead and attach that clip in the middle slot. Like this, and now the pin has gone in and it's secured in its place. So as you can see, we have just modified this cable from 3-pin to a 2-pin, and now we're left with the red cable and the white cable. On the other side, we had 3 pins and 3 cables. We're going to leave it as is. And on the MCU side, we just need the red and the white cable right next to each other, and black is not needed anymore. And we can go ahead and clip this cable. You can either just tape it up, or you can cut it completely for it to be out of the way. And now our cable is ready for the next step. In the next step, we're going to be making sure we have got the correct power settings on the PD power board. If you look at the back of this, it has got a table that basically indicates what voltage you want to choose for this application. We're going to be going ahead with the 20 volt setting, which is 0, 1, 1. So S1 is supposed to be in 0 position, S2 is supposed to be in 1, and S3 is supposed to be in 1 position. So let's go ahead and look at it on the other side, and we have got something here which is a small switch which is labeled S2, S1, S2 and S3. On top position it's on, which means 1, and in the bottom it's 0. So we're gonna make sure the S2 and S3 are in on position. So for that to happen, I'm just gonna go ahead and grab a flat tip screwdriver again, and then I'm gonna go ahead and move the S2 to toggle that to on position, and S3 also toggle to S position. You can remove this protective film that's attached on top of it if you really want to, but I'm just gonna leave it as is. So as you can see, S2 and S3 are top and on position, S1 is in 0 position. By doing that, we have just selected 20 volt from this table. Again, S2 and S3 are in on position, S1 is in off position, 0 position. And now that's ready for installation. Next, we're going to connect the power cables, red and black power cables, on the board itself, and then onto the PD power connector that we have got. So if you look at the SKR Pico board, these two are the power connectors. You can check it underneath, which is power plus and minus. It says plus and minus. So the plus is the far side of it in the corner, and the minus is next to it. So I'm gonna go ahead unscrew this, attach both the cables. Again, it's very important that you get this right. The red cable is on the outside, which is in the plus, and the negative is for the black cable. Now that I'm happy with it, I'm just going to go ahead and secure that by tightening the screws. As you can see, I'm going to check it one more time. Plus is red, minus is black. I'm happy with that. The cable is nice and secured, so I can go ahead and attach that to the PD power adapter. On this PD board, we can see one side is written VCC, the other one is written ground. So again, VCC is for the red cable, ground is for the black cable. So let's go ahead and loosen up the screws. Now that it's loose, I'm gonna grab the cable. The red goes to VCC, and the black goes to ground. Okay, you're gonna push that in. Once you're happy with it, tighten the screws. Now that's not going anywhere. Again, as you can see, VCC red cable, ground is black cable. And now that's ready for the next step. In the next step, we're going to be attaching the UART cable to SKR board and onto the Raspberry Pi board. So on the SKR board, the pin that's located just here, that is the UART pin. It has got nothing written underneath, but that is the UART pin, and that's the only place this cable can really fit. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this. Cable on this like this, nice and secured, and I'm happy with it. Now let's grab the Raspberry 02W board, and on this board we're going to attach the other side of the UART cable. Make sure we use the last 4 pins on the Raspberry Pi itself. So the red cable is on the outer side and the green on the inner side. So red on the outer side on the back row. So I'm going to go ahead and attach that. Like this. So as you can see, the red on the outer side and the green on the inside, and we on the back row of the 2 rows of pins. So as you can see from the back, that's what it looks like. That's what the cable looks like. And now we have connected UART cable to Raspberry Pi to SKR Pico, and the Pico is powered by the USB PD power adapter. And now it's ready for the next step. Now in the next step, we're going to be attaching the jumper cables. So again, these are the jumpers that we got in the SKR Pico box. That's along with the enclosure screws. So I'm going to be needing 3 of the jumpers. So now I've got the 3 jumpers with me, 1, 2 and 3, and we're going to be using jumpers on the X and Y terminals, because we are going to be using sensorless homing on them. So the X, Y, and this would be Z. So I'm going to go ahead and put the jumpers onto these 2, X and Y. So here's the jumper. I'm going to attach it onto the X first. Grab another one and attach it to Y. So now 2 jumpers have been installed. And we're also going to be attaching a 3rd jumper that is right next to this, what looks like a capacitor. So I'm going to go ahead and attach jumper here. So as you can see, I've attached 3 jumpers, 1, 2 and 3. Make sure you don't attach to this one, because that's we're going to be needing for the Z-axis, or this one. So 1, 2 and 3 jumper cables, as you can see. So now we have attached all the cables, all the jumpers on our setup. Next step is we need to attach the SD card that we install the OS onto. So I've got my SD card here with the micro SD attached into it. So I'm gonna grab the SD card and I'm gonna put that in the Raspberry Pi 02W in this direction. It's not gonna go in the other direction anyway, so don't put it like this. Make sure the pins are facing downwards, and you wanna just simply press that in and the card should go in. Now the SD card is ready, and now I'm gonna go ahead and attach the power adapter. So I've got the C-type and I've got the power side. So I'm going to go ahead and attach the power to the PD adapter, just like this, and I'm going to turn that on. I've attached the power, and as you can see, the red light on the PD is on this side. Then I've got the red light on the SKR on, and then I've got a green light flashing on the Raspberry Pi 02W on this side. Let's wait for 1 to 2 minutes for the Raspberry Pi's first boot to complete. As you can see, it's still flashing green, so it's still running through the necessary process. So here on the PC I've got the guide open on one side so that I can easily copy and paste the commands that I'm going to be needing. So the first task is to open the command prompt. So I'm going to simply go into the search box and open the command prompt as administrator. Okay, now that it is open, the first command I have is I'm gonna SSH into the Raspberry Pi. So I'm gonna copy and paste the SSH command. So as you can see, I've got SSH space pi. Pi was the username that we had allocated when we first set up the Raspberry Pi, and then @ and then host name, and host name we had allocated was OTTOEject. So hence the SSH command is going to be SSH space pi at OTTOEject.local and enter. It's going to ask for the password for the Raspberry Pi. The default password is username was pi and the password is raspberry. So I haven't changed that. So I'm just going to type raspberry and press enter. You can't see the letters come up when you type the password, but if it's correct, then it will basically log you into the system. So now I can see here that I've successfully accessed Raspberry Pi. Okay, now that I'm in my Raspberry Pi, I'm going to execute the next command, which says change directory to Clipper. So again, I'm going to copy and paste the command and paste it into the terminal window. Now the directory is changed to Clipper, as you can see. And next command is make space menu config. So I'm again going to copy the text and paste it. And now we are in the next menu. Okay, so in this configuration menu, as you can see a few options here. And the next step is we are going to Okay, so we are going to go into the first option, and we can press spacebar to go into the first option. So I'm just going to, you can toggle by using the arrow key up and down. As you can see, when I press up and down, it changes the options. So I'm going to go into the first option, enable extra low-level configuration option, and press spacebar key. So spacebar key. Here we have few options that came up. First option is microcontroller. So I'm going to go into the microcontroller option by pressing down key and press spacebar. Here I can see a few options listed. For us, we need to select Raspberry Pi RP2040/RP235X. So again, I'm going to press down key and come down to the option. Once I'm happy with it, I'm going to press spacebar again. And now that has been selected, as you can see, the first option has been selected. In the next one, we need to select the processor model. So again, I'm going to use the down key and go into the processor model and use spacebar. And here I need to select RP2040. As you can see, it's already selected, but I'm just going to press spacebar on RP2040 option. So making sure that it's been selected. In the next option, we need to go to the flash chip option. So I'm just going to come down to flash chip option using the down arrow key and press spacebar. In this one, I need to select W2 W25Q080. So not the generic one, but the W25Q080 with the CLK div 2. So I'm going to press spacebar and select that option. I'm happy with that. Okay, so next one we have the flash chip option. I'm going to come down to flash chip option and press spacebar, and you can see two options in there. We need to select the generic option and not the W25Q option. So I'm just going to come down to generic option and press spacebar. Here I've selected the generic option. In the next option, I'm going to go onto the communication interface. So again, press down key, come down to communication interface and press spacebar again. Here you'll have a few options. The first one is selected as USB serial, but the one we need is UART0 on GPIO0/GPIO1. So I'm just going to come down to UART0 on GPIO0 and GPIO1, which is the second option from top. So I'm just going to select that. So as you can see, that option has been selected. And now just making sure all the options are as it should. The first one is the microcontroller, which is the Raspberry Pi 2040/RP235. Next one is processor model, which is supposed to be RP2040. The third one down is the bootloader, which we haven't changed or don't need to change or do anything. Fourth one is the flash chip option, which is we have selected generic option. And the last one is the communication interface, which we have selected as UART0 on GPIO0/GPIO1. Now that I'm happy with it, I can press Q on the keyboard. So when I press Q, it will ask me if I want to save this configuration, and we would like to save the configuration, so hence I'm going to press Y. And now that has been successfully saved on Raspberry Pi. So as you can see, the configuration has been saved to this file itself. Now that it's been saved, I'm going to move on to next step, which is we're going to type in make. So I'm just going to type in make, M-A-K-E, and press enter. And when we press enter, it's going to do its thing. This step is basically building the firmware for your SKR Pico board, and it will probably take a few minutes for it to complete. Okay, so now the process has been completed, and the last line suggests that it has successfully created the UF2 file. As you can see, it says creating UF2 file out/clipper.uf2. So that completes that step. Now we want to move on to the next step, which suggests that we need to copy and paste this command, sudo nano, and I'm going to copy the text, right click and enter. It's asking for the password again for Raspberry Pi, so I'm going to type in Raspberry again and press enter. Okay, so now we have logged into a next menu. Okay, we need to press down the arrow key on the keyboard to navigate to the second line. So I'm going to press down the arrow key and move the cursor to second line, and then I'm going to copy and paste this command. So copy and take paste DT overlay. And once I've copy and pasted that, I'm going to press Control X. So don't need to press enter or anything, just need to press Control X. So Control and X. Now it's asking us if we like to save the modified buffer, and I'm going to press Y on the keyboard, and that's been saved. And now we need to press enter on the keyboard to proceed forward. Once we press enter, it has exited us out of that previous dialog box, and now we're back on the main terminal screen. And now we need to type exit. And now we have disconnected from the Raspberry Pi. Okay, so now we're going to flash that firmware onto the SKR board, and for that to happen we need the FileZilla application that we downloaded earlier. So I'm going to close the terminal window, and I'm going to open the FileZilla. And I'm going to run that as administrator. Okay, this is what the FileZilla portal looks like. Next step is we need to copy the host into the host section. So in the host, my host was OTTOeject.local, so OTTOeject.local. Username is Pi, which is the original name for the Raspberry Pi. Password is Raspberry, so I'm going to type in Raspberry, and port is 22. So again, host is host name that you have allocated earlier, which is OTTOMK, and .local. Username is Pi, password was Raspberry in my case, port 22, and I'm going to press quick connect. It's saying it's connected to OTTOMK.local. Okay, so it comes up with a dialog box which suggests that the unknown host key. We're just going to press OK on this. Okay, and we have successfully logged into our Raspberry Pi again using the FileZilla system. Okay, so on the left hand side you can see your computer files here listed. As you can see, that's my personal PC, and on the right hand side is the Raspberry Pi itself. So now we're going to connect the SKR Pico board to a computer using the black USB-C to black USB-A. So you know that we had So here I have the SKR board. So as you can see here, I have the SKR board already connected and Raspberry Pi already connected. I'm going to use the USB A to USB-C cable and connect it to my PC. I'm going to disconnect my SD card for the timing because I don't need that. I'm going to connect the USB to my PC, and I'm going to connect the USB-C to the SKR board itself. So I'm going to connect the USB-C pin to SKR board just like that. So as you can see, it's been connected, and as I connected that, the Raspberry Pi D drive came up. Make sure that we have got the jumper cable in place prior to this. So this is the jumper cable that needs to be in place. And now what we're going to do is we are going to press the reset button down for 3 seconds to put the SKR board into the boot mode for the firmware loading. So I'm going to go ahead, and there's the reset button right there. So I'm going to press the reset button for 3 seconds. 1001, 1002, 1003, and I'm going to let go of it. And now I need to navigate to the Raspberry Pi, the drive, the D drive itself. So as you can see over here, it has popped up as D drive. So I'm going to double click on that. So this is still on the computer side because we have connected the SKR board using the USB cable with our PC. That's why it shows up on the computer side. So I'm going to double click on the RPi RP2 system. So once you click on it, this is what this looks like. On this side, you can see the files on the RPi RP2, which is the SKR board side. And now what we're going to do is we're going to double click on the Clipper folder on the right hand side. So on this side, we can see the Raspberry Pi file system, and scroll down to Raspberry Pi's Clipper folder. So here is the Clipper folder. So I can click on Clipper. And then I'm going to double click on the Out folder. So here's the Out folder. So I'm going to go and double click on Out folder. And then I need to click and drag the clipper.uf2 file from right hand side to the left hand side. So I'm simply going to find the clipper.uf2 file, which is here, which is on the right hand side on the Raspberry Pi side, and I'm going to move that towards the SKR board side. So I'm going to simply click on the file, click and hold, and move it to the left hand side. Okay, so the file transfer was successful. As you can see on top, it has successfully transferred the file, and that's all we need. On this side, you won't see much change on this side, so don't worry about it. If it says file transfer successful, that means the file has been transferred. And now that the file has been transferred, I need to close out this FileZilla system. So I'm simply going to close that FileZilla portal. Next, I'm going to disconnect the electronics from the power source. So again, I'm going to disconnect the USB-C from the power source like this, and then I'm also going to remove the USB-C from the board itself like this. We don't need that anymore. So now that system is disconnected, and now we need to remove the boot jumper that we had attached earlier. So this boot jumper that needs to be removed. It's been removed, so now only 2 jumpers are left for the X and Y drivers, and that jumper has been removed. Okay, so now that we have successfully loaded the firmware onto the SKR board and Raspberry Pi has got the main cell OS onto it, we should be able to access that using our PC, just to make sure that it's connected. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this USB-C power again, connect it to the PD board. Now it's connected. Give it a minute to boot up. And I'm going to open a browser, and in the browser I'm going to type in my host name, which was OTTOeject.local, and press enter. Okay, so if I type that in, and if the Raspberry Pi has successfully booted, then you should be able to see the main cell portal. Don't worry about those errors on the screen at the moment. I'm just going to go and check that everything's as it should be. I'm quite happy with that. And sometimes you might not be able to log in with OTTOmk.local.config. If that's the case, then you might want to download something like Wi-Fi Analyzer to try and find the IP address of your Raspberry Pi. So in my case, So if you can't access your main cell dashboard via OTTOemk.local, you might need to find out the IP address of your Raspberry Pi first. You can download various LAN scan apps, either on your phone that's connected to the same Wi-Fi, or on your PC as well. I've downloaded something called, I think it's DL Network and Wi-Fi Monitor. So in this case, I'm just going to run a simple network scan to see if I can find the Raspberry Pi. Okay, so in my case, I can see this Raspberry Pi, which has got IP of 192.168.68.86. So then I can I can go ahead and open a new tab and go 192.168.68.86. And if I do that, it should take you to the main dashboard for the Raspberry Pi. And now your main cell is almost ready. We will be loading the printer config file along with a few other files in the steps later on. So now our electronics is ready to be mounted in the electronics box. So now that we have installed Raspberry Pi and loaded the operating system onto Raspberry Pi, we also need to install the Bonjour service on our PC so that we can easily access the Raspberry Pi using its hostname. Sometimes you can't access the Raspberry Pi's hostname and you would have to find the IP address. In order to tackle that, we realized that by installing Bonjour service, it makes our PC access and find the Raspberry Pi using their hostname. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the Connect drive and download the Bonjour setup file. So if you haven't already downloaded the whole folder, this is the Bonjour setup file, and I'm going to download it. Now it's been downloaded. I can see it on my download. I'm going to go into that folder, right click and run as administrator. Click yes. As you can see, I've already installed that on my system. Okay, so now that I've downloaded it, I'm going to right click on it and run as administrator. Yes. And in the dialog box, we're simply gonna click next. We're gonna accept the terms. Next. And we're gonna install that onto our system. It might take a minute or two for that to be installed. Now it's been installed and we can click on finish. And now that's been installed successfully. And now we can move on to the next step. Okay, so now that we have completed the electronic setup and loaded operating system onto Raspberry Pi as well as the firmware onto the SKR board, we can move on to the next step of installing the electronics in the enclosure box. So what we're going to be needing is the enclosure box itself. The way it's going to go is we are going to simply we're going to attach the SKR board onto the enclosure box using the screws provided in the electronics and the SKR board box along with the jumper cables. So I've got the 4 screws here. I'm going to grab an Allen key and I'm going to put 2 screws, one on this end and the other one just here. The two screws should suffice. As you can see, I've attached 2 screws, one here and one there, to hold that in place. These are the connection we're going to be needing for the X, Y, and Z motors. We can simply slide the USB-C PD power in this orientation, like this. You can simply just press that, and that will hold that in place. Don't worry about it moving it too much at this stage. We're going to be putting the cover on, which is going to make sure that this stays pressed. But you could also alternatively, if it's tangled, I can make sure that the cable goes underneath. And then gets pressed again against it like this. It's a bit too much twist, so I'm just gonna make it loose. Make sure it just sits like this over here. And now when I install the Raspberry Pi board, again using the 2 other screws that's been provided. I'm just gonna put one in that corner. And then the other one across in this corner. Okay, so as you can see, I've used 2 screws, one in that corner and one in this corner. On this side, I've used one here and one there, and this one is simply just slid into the slot over here. Okay, once we're happy with it, we can move on to the next part of installing the motor cables and the end stop cable. So this is the end stop cable. Remember, it needs to be only 2 pins, red and white. So we need to move the white into the black spot. So for that to happen, I'm just going to use a screwdriver. is going to come off. I'm going to also detach the black cable. Just like that, and I'm gonna make sure the white goes in the middle. So I'm gonna lift up the clip just a tiny bit on top. So I lifted the clip, and then I'm going to align that in the center and push that in, and that's in place. And the black cable, I can simply just snip it off. So now I've got the cable with only 2 pins, as you can see. Okay, so when it comes to installation of the cable, I'm going to pass the end stop cable first through one of the gaps here. So just through there. Usually the cable comes through nice and simple. And the Z end stop goes into this first pin over here. So I'm going to insert the pin into the first slot. Just like this. And now that cable is nice and secured. It can be on one of the sides. Now on the board itself you can see the X, Y and Z marked over here. So let's go ahead and find the X motor cable. It goes into the X position. As you can see, the X is marked. Then let's go ahead and get the Y cable. So again the Y cable is marked. So I'm going to use the Y cable. Put that into the Y slot, and then I'm going to go ahead and get the Z cable and put that into the Z slot. Alright, once that's done, I can go ahead and close the lid. Again, only 2 jumper cables here. That jumper cable we have already removed. That was only used for the setup. Raspberry Pi connected with the UART cable to the SKR board, and an SKR board is powered through the PD junction here. So let's go ahead, and as you can see, one of the edges on the lid itself has got the raised edge like this. That edge is supposed to make sure that the PD board stays pressed down. So that goes in that corner, and it has got the triangular notch in it, so you'll only be able to install that over here. Obviously it's not going to go like this, and you won't be able to install it like that either. So 2 holes need to match up, 1 hole here, 1 there. So it's just going to sit on top like this, and I'm going to use the M3x8. And then attach the lid. So now the lid has been attached, and then this is the cradle that the box can sit like this, and any excess cable you've got can be shoved in at the back of this gap over here. Alright, and the electronics box is basically ready, as you can see. So let's go ahead and connect that and see and move on to the next step.